everyone, Sarah here at Three Little Potters, and maybe you've been sort of watching my Etsy numbers video and you've been thinking about possibly starting selling your own pottery on Etsy. This is the very beginner friendly, the first things you need to do to start selling your stuff on Etsy. There are a few things that you're going to want to get ready before you go through the process of setting up your shop. What I would suggest starting with is the photos that you're going to need for your business. You're going to want a profile picture. And so, picture of your face, or if you're very shy, maybe a picture of a pot. The other large thing that you're going to want is a cover image, sort of the banner that goes at the top that sort of showcases your work. And some people will just put their logo up there. I would highly encourage you to go ahead and take a picture of some of your pottery that you're going to be selling there. You're going to want something that showcases your work. It's another huge spot for you to show who you are as a potter and really advertise your work. So don't waste it with just a generic logo. Put some pottery up on your cover image. And your banner, maybe you don't have a ton of pottery ready to sell yet, but you possibly have maybe some of your favorite pieces that you've kept, things that maybe are on the top shelf of your pottery studio that, maybe the lid to the jar doesn't open, it's stuck on there, maybe the plate has a crack on the bottom. All of those things you can still use in your cover image, right? Because this is one angle, one photo. It's not something that people are going to be using. It's not necessarily something you're selling. It's just something that you're using to showcase your form, your color, what you've got available. So you should be able to scrounge up enough pottery to get yourself a good cover image. If you don't already have a shop logo, that's something that you could consider maybe messing around on Canva to come up with, or just sketching something out. When I started my Etsy shop, I was like, oh, I don't have that. I need one right away. And I spent a half an hour on it, and I needed something kind of immediately. And yes, when I get some time, I'm going to go in and redo that. So know that you may want a shop logo and possibly put a little bit of thought into that, what that might look like. The other thing you're going to want to brainstorm about is, what is your business called? Now, maybe you've already been selling at craft fairs, so you already have that business name. What you're going to want to do when you hit the Start Selling button on Etsy is to check and see if your business name is available. And there is a possibility that your business name is not available, and you might have to add a word, or, it could be, I don't know, maybe if it was Saraganya Pottery, and maybe I'd have to put Pottery Studio at the end and something like that to kind of make it so that it's not copying somebody else's business name. You get the idea. I just don't want you to be surprised if you get in there and type in your business name and you're like, oh, I can't have my exact business name. You can always tweak it just a little bit to be almost the same, slightly different on Etsy, and that is fine. The other thing you want to do when you get in there, when you get into this platform and you're going through all these different parts, is have a listing ready to go. So you want listing photos, at least one listing when you're starting out, and just put it in there. It's just sort of your placeholder listing. So when you're putting together these listing photos, you can have 10 of them, and I wouldn't stress out too much about your very first listing, but I would go ahead and have those photos ready to go. So I edit my photos in Lightroom and I export them to a folder called Etsy, and I upload from that folder. My export settings, I usually make my photos the widest on any dimension, 3,000 pixels for my listings. Now, the requirements are less than that, but I feel like with these photo requirements, I feel like the res is always changing and it's getting better and higher. So I usually would go on the high end of what's allowed to post. So I'll just go ahead and give them a little bit larger of a file as long as it still meets their guidelines. If you'd like a little bit more help on photographing your work, I have a video on photographing my work for Etsy, and I will go ahead and link that below if you want to kind of go over how I take my photos. So, just the basics in case you don't want to watch another video. Use window light, use natural light. Don't get too crazy with it. When you're taking your photo, use something that is a recognizable size to people. So for me, I will use a ruler in my listing photo to show how big something is. Because, you know, if this was right here, you might think this was a very, very big tumbler. But when you see it in my hand, or you see it next to the ruler, you're like, oh, right. Okay, that is very small. That's a 12-inch ruler and it's only 2 inches tall. Okay. You know, every time I have a listing and I forget the ruler, I will often have somebody being like, oh, I thought it'd be bigger, or they'll come back to me afterwards and they'll have a problem with the size. So, you know, some people use 1-inch cubes next to their item so that you can kind of see how big it is. But you definitely want to be considering conveying information to a possible buyer so that they don't have to ask you more questions. Once you have your pile of photographs ready to go, and again, I'm going to flash up some of those dimensions for you because I personally like to have my images cropped in the way that I want them before I start setting up something. Once you start listing, you're going to want to be able to ship. You don't want to sell something and then be unable to ship it for a week because you don't have the right materials or you didn't plan for it. So whatever you're planning on listing, make sure you have boxes that it will fit in, and bubble wrap and tape and those things, right? I would say the minimum: box, bubble wrap, some craft paper, and some tape. So I would recommend I just get this bubble wrap, and it is medium bubble. I buy mine from American Bubble Boy. I'm not an affiliate with them. When I was starting out, I got all of my supplies on Amazon Business because I could order in a smaller amount. So this is the box I use the most. It is a square 6x6 box. And yeah, just getting those on Amazon Business is kind of this to get you started. So you may need, you know, a few days for these things to arrive in the mail. I would recommend having the minimum amount of shipping supplies on hand before you start listing things. And a note about the quantities of shipping materials that you want. When you start selling, I would feel like, think of this as dipping your foot in. You're not going all in yet. You're not sure that you're going to love this. So do not buy a pack of 1,000 of these boxes, you know. Maybe start out with 25, you know, a nice package of 25 boxes. And, you know, unless you use bubble wrap for something else, I might not start off with, you know, 800 square feet of bubble wrap. You know, I usually buy mine in 370 square foot packages now. But what I'm saying is, you may not like selling on Etsy. Not everyone does, right? Every job has this sort of balance to it of things that you love about it and things that, you know. So depending on how you feel, this may or may not be something that you're in love with. So you don't want a room full of bubble wrap if you decide after a month that it sucks and you don't want to do it anymore. So, you know, I would think get some supplies, buy some things, but don't go overboard. You know, one thing that the first week I did not buy this, and it is a thermal label printer. That was one of the first big purchases that I made for my Etsy shop, was the label printer, and it saves me a ton of time. But honestly, the amount of time it takes to just, you know, use tape and tape the label on, right? It's not that bad. But if you are planning on selling more than one piece a week and you do find that you like it, one of the first things I would consider investing in is a thermal label printer. In every box, I also use this craft paper. This is to basically, the bubble wrap is expensive, craft paper, cheap. So I will definitely make sure I'm filling the empty voids of space with the craft paper rather than the bubble wrap to save myself quite a bit of money. So, you know, that's something I would recommend. You can get smallish packages of craft paper on Amazon Business. I think, you know, you can get something like 100 sheets for $10, or you could get something like, you know, 300 sheets for $17.98, I think is what I last paid. It's an investment, so make sure you're not going overboard, right? Make sure you're just kind of checking it out. And then when it comes down to really bulk shopping, if you love this, you can do that later. So I know many of you are probably thinking, oh, well, I've got lots of extra Amazon boxes at home. I've got some like old paper, a newspaper by the fire that I usually use for that. I would consider, and I'm all for recycling. I still would consider starting off with nice shipping materials. This is your first impression that your business is making. And since you don't have any reviews yet, those impressions make a big difference, right? So that first order you get, you want to ship it right away, right? You want to do an immaculate job shipping this, right? It wants to be completely safe. This package should be like really secure. Picture yourself tossing that package down the stairs. Is it okay? Is everything not broken inside? You want to make sure there's not any movement. With pottery, that is incredibly important. If you send out your first package, it arrives broken, the person leaves you a horrible review because everything's broken, that's a bad start, right? So you want to show that you're a real business. You want to look nice and tidy. You want to, if you have a nice business card from your craft shows or anything like that, add it in the box. If you have time and can write a little thank you note, put it in the box. All of those things are great. I will tell you one thing I will not put in the box. That is a free item. You might be tempted because you're so happy somebody's bought from you to give away something from your shop. Don't do this. Don't do this. You are trying to show the value of your work, right? You're building your brand, you're building the value of your product. Everything you make is valuable. Even if I once heard, oh my goodness, I heard somebody saying that they put mini mugs in as a free item. And if it's you, sorry, I would have loved to have gotten a mini mug too for free. But you can make a lot more money on those little filler items. Those filler items should be something that they come back to purchase from you. They're not free. Your pottery isn't free. You worked very, very hard on it. And every time you put a free item in your box, you are increasing your shipping weight, you are increasing the amount of money that it costs you to ship it, and you're making less money. So think of it as you're not only giving them something, you're also taking a pay cut when you put that free thing in the box. So I wouldn't do the free thing. Don't do the free thing. You don't need the free thing. You can just write a nice note, maybe put a business card if you have some extras in there. Leave it at that. If they want more, they will come back and buy more. Now, you will have seen this setup on my photographing for Etsy video, but just real quick, my aperture is not what it should be. And I usually put my aperture at 3.5 or 4 so that I'm getting the different sides of the cup in focus. And also grabbing a photo with a ruler. So let's talk a little bit about what goes into creating that first listing. For the most part, the images on Etsy are fairly square. So I usually go with that format for mine. I'm going to go ahead and edit these. And I'm using Lightroom to edit mine. You don't have to use Lightroom. You could use any editing software that you want. But you're still going for sort of the same things. You want your images to be bright enough to see. You want them to be so that the item you're photographing takes up almost 80% of the frame. So what I'm going to be doing a lot of is sort of cropping. And because the image takes up 80% of the frame, you're going to want to make sure that you have that ruler measurement there, because that can make, a tiny espresso cup look the same as a quite larger piece. Or a ring dish could look like it's a cereal bowl. So you definitely want that frame of reference. Boy, that's a really pretty bowl. Love it. Now, if I was going to put this on Instagram, I would probably do an even tighter crop, and I would do a little bit more fiddling with the clarity and the contrast, and I would really make that pop. But for Etsy, I like things to be very, very true to life. So the bowl is about 2 inches. And this can be very helpful for you when you're creating your listing to already have your measurements in the photo so that you can remember what you did, especially if you're doing a lot of listings. Okay, so these are my images for this listing. I could have 10. I don't have 10. I only have 7. That's fine for me. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and export these. I'm going to put them in the same folder as the original folder. And I am resizing these because these are very large images. I want them only to be 3,000 pixels wide. So I'm exporting those. So the next thing I'm going to do for the listing is I'm going to come over here to iMovie. I'm going to take the footage of the bowl that I've shot. And this is literally a picture of the bowl in my hands and me just flipping it around so that you can see the light on it, see if there's any flaws. So you're not editing this video, you're not doing anything to this video, there's no sound in it. All I'm going to go to is File, Share, File, and I'm going to make sure it's in the same folder. I don't even care what it's called. And I will show you how I would list this item. So this is a bowl, a small bowl, and I've already have a lot of small bowls in my shop. So if I was listing this bowl as myself right now, I would go here, I would hit copy, I would remove the video and photos here, and then I would add the photos that we just did, like so. I would come down here, and while this is working, I would go ahead and just update. Yes, it's still a small pottery bowl thrown on the wheel, white stonework light. I would update the glaze, what the glaze is on it, and I would update the measurements if they need to be updated. Then I would pick out the best one here and have that as my cover. And then I usually reorder them like so and leave the measurement photos at the end. So this is my picture, and if I need to update the price, I will update the price here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this, and we will list this bowl like it's a very first listing. And this is what you will be doing when you create your first listing. So it is a physical item that we're selling. Who made it? I did. Finished product, when did you make it? Last week. It's made from scratch. So there's a lot of these things that you have to answer with every new listing, but once you have your listings made, you won't have to deal with this anymore. Handheld or hand-guided tools. This is all new stuff. I don't know why they do this, but that's fine. They even like put in there like, oh, pottery wheel is considered a tool. Yeah, I feel like it's almost no tools when you're making pottery, but that's okay. Continue along. So here, the title of your listing. So for here, I would put pottery bowl or small charcuterie bowl. And I might put something else. You get the idea. So for those listing titles, I would go ahead and look at what other people are doing that are listing similar items to you. Kind of see what some of those search terms are that they're putting at the top of their listing, because that might also apply to yours and you can use that. So once again here, we're going to go ahead and add our photos and our video. We can select them all at once. And the description, I'll be writing this from scratch. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's made out of. You know, this small bowl was thrown on the wheel. You get the idea, right? You start describing it, and you know, think of your description as a spot where you're going to cover yourself from returns, if you will. So, you know, if this bowl has a rough spot on the rim that I think people won't like, I might say this bowl has been discounted for a small imperfection right here. You know, I might even circle it in the picture. I'm going to describe it because they can't see this in person. So you're not trying to hide anything about this item. You're trying to fully disclose it. You're wanting to show how much it holds, how wide it is, how tall it is, everything about it. You don't want anything left unknown here. So you're going to pick a price for it. You're going to pick a quantity for it. And we're going to go in here. So what category is this? So you'll type something like, well, it's a bowl. Okay. There's a category for bowl. I'm going to put it there. Sometimes it's a little bit more tricky, right? So I have a ring dish. It's really a small bowl. It could be used as a condiment dish. It could be used as a jewelry dish. I have found that the category it works the best in is as a jewelry dish. So I would list that here, and I would put it in that category rather than in bowls. Materials, you can, again, put more things in here. Ceramic, you can kind of talk about that a little bit if you wanted to. You can put in the colors, if it was sustainably made. Now, tags, this is where you're going to want to be putting in your SEO sort of information. So for the SEO tag information, you are going to write down everything that's obvious. And these cannot be long words. You're just pottery bowl, comma, salt bowl, comma, whatever you can think of to describe this piece of pottery is what you're going to put in there. Now, when you're first starting out, say you made a mug, there's a million mugs on Etsy, okay? So you need search terms that are going to sort of put you up there, right? Terms that other people aren't doing. So instead of, mug on my listing, I might write, oh, it's a golden retriever 8-ounce mug, right? So if somebody's looking for something very specific, your listing is going to come up ahead of other ones. And, that's sort of a way to stand out in a very flooded marketplace if you're making something specific. So, one of my first things that sold was a whale tail mug, because there are less whale tail mugs than there are mugs. So I was standing out in a smaller group of people. So for the SEO, put in 13 tags. I don't care if they're perfect. You could think about, oh, if they misspelled something, if you have your, charcuterie, maybe you want some different word there. If there's a use for the bowl, if there's anything different about it that you can capitalize on, those listings are going to show up higher. People are going to be seeing that more. So I offer free shipping over $35 in my shop, and I would not necessarily recommend that you start there. I would start with charging for shipping, and I would sort of look at how much that shipping costs as you're going and kind of consider how much you would need to sort of inflate your prices to cover shipping in the future. You definitely want to get a baseline, because you don't want to be like, oh yes, I'll have free shipping on this bowl and I'm going to mark it at $25 and that should cover $10 of free shipping. And then somebody in, California orders it, or somewhere, whatever part of the country you're in, somebody in the opposite part of the country orders it, and you realize that the priority shipping is like $17. And all of a sudden, with your boxes and how much your shipping supplies costed, you're only making now like $7. And it's like, oh, that wasn't really the profit margin that I needed for this.
What to do as you're going through is shipping options. So you're going to, for your first one, you're going to create an option for shipping and calculate them for me. Yes, recommended. You're going to put your home zip code here. Your processing time, how long it takes you to get ready, where you're shipping to, and then you're going to pick out the type of mail classes that you're going to use. So the one that you want to make sure you're selecting here, and it is under advanced shipping options, is USPS Parcel Select Ground. That's the one you want. Always make sure this one is selected so that your free shipping, if you offer any free shipping, is at a lower price point than if it was priority mail. Here you are going to click Save as Shipping Profile. So you can save that and you can write in your just I would name it something like, hey, this is my regular shipping profile or something like that. I call regular ship. And then I would hit save profile and apply. It will show you a preview of the cost of where it's going to, if it's shipping to a certain place over another, how much that's going to cost you, so that you can kind of be prepared for that.
And a bit about pricing too. These are your first listings. You're not looking at getting a maximum amount of profit on here. This is just you gathering reviews, gathering information, seeing how you feel about selling on this platform. So if you marked something a little bit lower in price than you want to sell it for, that's okay. It's okay to start there. And I would think of that almost as like you're investing in advertising your business a little bit there, right? You're standing out by underpricing just a teeny bit, but you don't you don't want to stay at that low price for long, but it is okay to be reasonably priced in the beginning just till you get some reviews and people know that your shop is legit. All of this said, this is your first listing. Okay, nobody's seen your shop yet. You don't have a lot of reviews. There's no background for people to want to buy from you yet, right? So you're going to be, once you get your shop set up, I would encourage you to advertise to your friend, family network a little bit, because it's very hard to cold sell to a complete stranger when you have no reviews and nobody knows anything about your shop. So, when I launched my shop, I went ahead, I made a Facebook announcement. The first people that bought things off my shop were people I went to high school with. And, they're not people I'm regularly in contact with, but, they were willing to support me in my business. They know I'm a real person. They took a chance. I made sure to package it up right away, send it out, be very nice about it. And then they went ahead and left me those initial reviews. And that is a huge help to starting. So even if it feels a little cringy and a little awkward to say to people, hey, check out my Etsy shop, right? Because going from the point of making ceramics in your home to acknowledging the fact that, hey, I'm good enough to start selling my ceramics is sort of this leap of confidence. And, that's can be a struggle for people, but, photograph it well, be honest about what it is. If there's a flaw, write that down too. And people don't need perfect. Sometimes people like wonky things. So, don't let this over striving for perfectionism kind of thing hold you back from getting your pottery out there. So make sure you are ready to be able to produce and that it's not going to harm anyone. It's not sharp or jagged. But also don't stall waiting for the perfect piece. I would also like to say that there are these few things that you need to do to get ready to start your shop, like having the shipping boxes, taking some photos, okay, getting a business name. This shouldn't take more than a week. If you find yourself taking more time than it should take, are you stalling because you're not confident? Are you stalling because you're, worried about these things? You need to sometimes get out of your way a little bit and give yourself that push and actually do it. Just try it out. You don't have to love it. You might not even stick with it. You might want to just sell a few things. You might just want to just try it. You don't have to be an expert in the beginning, and it's okay to make some missteps. But I feel like those first sales, if you can ship on time, if you can ship well, if you have a good product, it can really start catapulting your business into that constant stream of income. And, if this is something that you want to do and you want to keep doing, then yeah, start out right, have some good photos, and ship some good products. I hope this was helpful for everyone. I know it's scary to hit that start selling on Etsy button, but it's not so very bad. I think you guys will like it if you try it, or maybe you won't and you can move on to something else. But better to try it and know that you don't like it than to always be wondering. Thanks for watching. I'd love it if you liked and subscribed.